Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Inspiration Through Information. I'm your host, Brother Jamal. I'm really excited about this week's episode, this particular development in our structure of self, right? This part of developing self is very exciting. It's very exciting, and it's also a little bit of scariness, man. If you've been following this whole process in this series, you know in the beginning, we begin with the reconstruction phase, which basically was the cleaning out the closet, cleaning out the unused stuff in our lives, right? And then we got to the second part where we did a spiritual evaluation. In other words, we begin to assess the things that we truly believe, right? That we truly believe, not no one else's beliefs, no one else's consideration, our own attributes, right? And the things that we feel we stand on, right? And once we got to the third part, we started doing intentional implementation. That means we were intentionally adding things to our lives that we deem are fit for our own lives, right? And if you've been doing these things to the best of your ability, nobody else's ability, but the best of your ability, if you've been doing these things, you have gotten to a place in your life now where you're feeling a lot more secure in who you are, a lot more confident in who you are in your authenticity, right? So if we got to this part and we hear, now the next part comes, right? This is where all the things we did in the first three, we get an opportunity to actually start applying them into our lives, which brings me to today's topic. Part 4 is entitled Applying the Newness. Now, how do we go about applying the newness? Each individual may be uniquely different in how they approach a situation, right? But if they did the first three phases, right, they're at a point where now they want reassurance. They want to know that what they're adding to their life is of their life, right? So, and is it going to fit particularly, like just like a puzzle? We're going to do this like a beautiful puzzle, a beautiful work of art, right? You are now the artist of your life. So each component or each stroke of the brush is your stroke. So when you start to apply your newness, you may feel a little anxious, right? Because this is something or way you may have been that you begin to live that you may not have been living for quite basically throughout your life. So naturally, you're going to have a little nerves. You're going to be a little nervous, right? That's the wonderful part about it, right? You got butterflies all in your stomach again, like the first time you fell in love, if you ever fell in love, and you get all those squeezy and nervous type feelings, and you just unsure. It feels good, but I don't know if it's just really me, right? This is that time, this is that state, right? So I'm always excited about that because I'm always looking for newness to my life, right? The newness of me, right? I'm always open for continuous growth within who I am, right? I try my best to be a better version of who I am today than I was yesterday. And in order to do that, I got to be open-minded enough to be able to accept newness, right? So at this particular development stage, we're in the applying. We're applying the newness. So all the things that we put into our lives in our last part, the implementation stage, all those things now, we actually got to do the next step. And this is a courageous step. This is what true courage is, right? When you begin to walk in you, it takes a lot of courage, especially if your life has been constructed by others' view and perceptions, and there's pieces of other people in you that you've been leading your life. So now we're at a state where courage, true courage is coming to play, walking and applying the newness into actual everyday living, right? So this takes a lot of courage, right? But I'm gonna give you some jewels, right? Listen, the faith that you developed in the last 3 steps, the belief that you developed in the last 3 steps, the clarity you developed in the last 3 steps. I want you to draw on those 3 things, because those 3 things belong to you. These are your things. This is you. This is where you're going to find out you have strength that you never knew you had possible. This is you. You draw onto those things as you take a step forward into your newness. So now when we begin to apply, because all that we do when it comes to developing self requires or leads us to the point of time of action. Action simply means now that I am, or I feel that I'm at a place where I'm okay with me, where I am truly okay with me. Now as I walk with my head up. I walk with my head up. I walk in confidence with my new. And as I walk in these things, or in other words, as I apply these things to my everyday life, it's going to cause some waves. It's going to cause some ridges, because those who knew you prior to the cleansing of oneself, prior to the developing of oneself, has a perception of you, of that person. They have an ideology or idea of you, of that person. So when you approach them and you're new, you're going to be met with you're going to be met with more disbelief than you are belief in your new. You're going to get some folks who's going to encourage you to continue walking in. And this is where a trained, developed foundation, this is where your foundation come into play. You have to tune your ears to listen to those who are encouraging you to be you, as opposed to listening to those who want you to be who you used to be. Because most of them don't understand that who you used to be wasn't spiritually good for you. It was good for them. It served a purpose for them. It provided them with whatever they provided, but they didn't take the time out to ask, how was it for you? This is why we went going through this process. This is why these steps are taking place, so that we had to cleanse all that stuff out. So now that we can walk in us, we can walk in ourselves, we can walk in our own regards. So when we begin this path, when we actually start to implement the action, put it in motion. In science, they call it kinetic. Kinetic energy is energy that's in motion. Your newness has to stay kinetic, so that it can center around the foundation that you built in the last 3 steps. It can solidify your foundation, right? So we need your energy to be in motion. We need you to start to live your life according to the newness that you put into your life, according to the perspective of what you have for your life. And in doing that, you're going to start to uncover some things. You're going to start to see some things. You might even acquire some new likes, some new taste, some new aspirations, right? All the things that in your inner self you had desired or wanted for your life, but through fear, we didn't go for these things. We did not tell. We had society telling us we couldn't. We may have had family and loved ones telling us we couldn't. We may have had friends who we thought were friends telling us we couldn't. All those things got removed in the first 3 steps. So now, whoever my spiritual connection and my own desires for my life is what I'm hearing now. So in applying it, you may not know how to do it perfectly, but here's the key. You don't have to do it perfectly. You just have to be you while you doing it, right? So what that means is that as you step into your newness, as you begin to apply your newness, you're going to be met with some forces, spiritual forces, tangible forces that's going to try to draw you back. because there's a saying that I go by, like, it's a distorted sense of comfort in familiar pain. So what that means is that the old stuff, it's been with you longer than this newness. It has been. So naturally, when you face these, I would say, oppositions or these hurdles that you're going to experience in your newness, there's going to be a large part of you wanting you to revert back into that place. All you have to do is remember this. It was that place that led you to the spiritual depletion that you was in. If you can recall that, if you can just remember that it was that place, it'll help you to keep moving forward in your newness. It'll help you keep forward. It doesn't mean you won't feel, but what it means is that you won't stop moving forward. You won't stop taking the steps in your newness. You will not draw back to the old, because the old got you to the place of the cleansing, right? And what we did when we implemented our spiritual, when we did the intentional implementation in part 3, like I shared with you, the most important part is that you need to implement stuff that is of goodness to your spirit, because they're going to have to be able to withstand. They're going to have to strengthen you when you face the things in the new. Because as we begin to embark on these new applications of our lives in the development of self, we're still going to pass things that were connected to the oldness of us. We're still going to, especially if it's family or loved ones or even a workplace, right? You didn't leave your job. You didn't quit your job. You have not separated from your family, right? So you're still going to be met with a lot of, remember when you used to be? Remember when you used to be? You used to do this and you used to do that. And when you try to explain to them and say, well, I'm not like that anymore, right? You get a lot of maybe some teeth sucking, you get some doubtful looks, or you get some of those old sayings like, I done heard that many times before, right? You need not worry about that. You need not worry about that, because if you follow the first 3 steps, you know in your spirit that where you're going now is where you're going, and you're going to continue to move forward. But don't think you're not going to hear it. Don't think you're not going to experience it. I don't want no one to live in no illusion thinking that everyone is going to be on board with your new application of you, with the better version that you believe are better for you. I don't want you to even think that. So when applying your newness, like I said, the first thing we got to do is remember we're standing on solid foundation now. We're standing on a foundation that we built along with our spiritualness and our spiritual connection, for me, along with God, right? We built this foundation with the things that are of me and the things that are provided to me through the God of my understanding, right? So what I'm saying to you is your foundation is solid. All you have to do is keep building. Now, as you walking in your new, and you start to come across new things, and you get feelings that you thought you never had, or that you felt that, was lost from you. When you become excited about you, when you start applying this, right? These are just a few things that's going to take place. Connections that you thought were strong connections are going to begin to dwindle. You're going to be open-minded to acquire new connections, because you're walking in a different level. You're walking on a different level of spirituality. You're walking on a different level of peace within yourself. So therefore, naturally, you're going to begin to attract different things. You're going to begin to attract things that are like-minded. You'll be going to begin to attract things that also are trying to be better self. So, and what that means is that sometimes you're going to experience folks to make you feel as though where you're going is intentionally to cause them some type of strife. If you know in your heart of hearts that your newness has nothing to do with anybody but the place you were in that you no longer wish to be in. And when we begin to develop ourselves, when we're developing ourselves, we have to remember that, guess what? If I can't stand for me, then I can't stand for no one else. And we can look in the evidence of our own lives to see that how we've fell or how we've disappointed others trying to stand for them and unable to stand for them. And it's based in the fact that we ourselves were not solid in our foundation. So when we begin to apply these newness, all you have to do is ask yourself, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you would like to do for you? What is it that you want to be a part of? Now, you should have had a couple of ideas from the last step. You should have gotten some ideas to begin with in the implementation stage. You know, the intentional things that are added to my life, because just because you add stuff to your life does not mean it's going to stay in your life. It does not mean it's going to be affordable for your life. The only way you will know is to actually start applying these things to your life. So if you want to be, just say, a more loving person, I'm going to use that as a scenario. If you want to be a more loving and caring person, the only way you will know if this is really going to become you is to do what? Start loving and caring. So that means you're going to have to push past the fears of, but what if I get hurt? This may sound cold, but I'm teaching you, I'm sharing with you how to develop self. Okay, what if you get hurt? All you got to do is say, I've been hurt before, but yet I'm still here. The difference is I'm not going to take that hurt and turn it inward to where it becomes a part of me, to where it starts to chip away at my foundation. No, I'm just going to feel it. I'm going to go through the process of the feelings, and I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep applying this new thing in my life. I'm going to keep loving. I'm going to keep caring, because that's what I want to be like. Self-accountability, this applying stage that we in, right? This applying of the newness comes with self-accountability. That means that if I choose something and it doesn't work out, I got to accept the fact, okay, that didn't work out. Does not mean I don't stop choosing. So right now, what I'm saying is we're in the decision stage. And the wonderful part about decisions is that as long as you breathe and you have the opportunity to make another decision. Sometimes decisions do not come out favorable to the flesh. Does not mean they were good or bad decisions. It just means that the desires behind the decision wasn't met. So I learned to say, like, okay, that one didn't work. And when I've talked to a lot of people on many different platforms, and I hear a lot of people say, well, you know what? I'm just going to give up. I just ain't going to try it no more. I'm just done with it, right? It just can't work. And I always encourage them. I said, well, how is that so? The only time it won't work is the day you make a decision to stop trying it. It only doesn't work when we make a self-decision to say, I'm not even going to apply it no more. Now, in this newness, we shouldn't be thinking like that. If we did the first 3 steps like we were supposed to do the first 3 steps, we wouldn't be thinking about not trying. We'll feel some things, but the last thing that's going to go through our mind is, I'm going to give up. Because guess what? If I give up, you're not giving up on no one else. You're giving up on yourself. So that means I got to go back, and I got to go back to the beginning, and I got to reassess what I did in those first 3 steps to see if I did it thoroughly, honestly, and to the best of my ability. If I tried to manipulate, cheat, add a little bit, put the wrong thing, not put the fullness in it, then like I said, you will crumble. We have to always remember, when developing self, we must build it with pure motives. Understand that what I mean, and not perfect motives, but pure motives. If goodness is my intentions, then goodness is what I need to add to the table. So at the end of the day, when others, or I may encounter some things that don't think that I'm good, I still can be okay with that because I know my motives and my intentions come from a pure place. See, I can live with that. I can live with that. And then it's easy for me to accept that who I am is just not someone who's cohesive with who they are. It doesn't make them a bad person, doesn't make me a bad person. So in applying the newness, we get a chance to see if the pieces of the puzzle fit. So we laid the puzzle out. Right now, our puzzle is laid out on the floor. You know, like a regular puzzle. I'm going to say how I used to do puzzles when I was younger. I would build the puzzle with the borders first. I would look for the end pieces, the pieces with the solid line on them, so that I can build the border first. And then I would go through the pieces until I can find the right piece that fit in the right portion of the puzzle, until the puzzle was of completion. This is what stage you're in right now. And applying the newness is your puzzle. And guess what? You can create the puzzle whichever way you want to create it. All you doing is just making sure that the pieces that you choose are the pieces that go in the right slot. And the only way you're going to know that is to choose a piece. So in order to, that means action. You have to apply the piece to see if that's the piece for that area of your life, to see if that piece fits cohesively with that area of your life. And the beautiful part about it is listen, if you add another piece to that and it's not aligning, that means one of those two pieces is slightly off. The beautiful part about it is that you can always change the piece. But here's what you have to do so that you can maintain your spiritual wellness. You have to remove the piece with the same care and love that you implemented the piece. See, that takes a lot of mental strength, spiritual guidance, right? A lot of times when a piece doesn't fit in our life, we want to tear it apart as we removing it out of our life. But then what that does is leaves us in a spiritual bad place. Resentments, frustrations, anger, right? And that's affecting us spiritually. So when we remove a piece that doesn't fit in this particular portion of our life, we need to be always remove it the way that we placed it in. If we placed it in with care and love, then we got to remove it with care and love. People say, how do you do that? Simply, you remove it with as much kindness, with as much love, with as much compassion that is in you. You remove it. What happens to that piece, or what state of mind or state of spirit that piece may be in, that's their work. That's not my work, that's their work. So you have to understand that in your applying stage, what you're doing now is just finding the pieces. You're finding the pieces and you're beginning to put them into place. You're beginning to start to create your work of art. And it's so fun because you can try different things. You can implement different colors. You can implement different insights. And listen, there's no limitation on your work of art until you place a limit on your work of art. You can add these things. And as you're doing these things, what happens is your faith in you being who you are and the better version of you begins to strengthen. It begins to strengthen because you start to become more and more comfortable because the components of you are of you. I'm going to say that again for you. The components of you are of you. So therefore, you don't have that uncomfortable feeling of a piece of you being somebody else's. And it just never feels right. Whatever is in you, by the time you reach to this stage of developing self, by the time you reach to stage 4 of developing self, you are at a place of comfort with who you are. Now, understand, comfort does not mean you where you want to be, but it means that your foundation is strong enough to continue to build on, to continue to enhance, to continue to improve you. Everything and every step and everything you add to your life from this point on is of newness. I pray you don't make the mistake of grabbing something from the old that you've already got rid of in the reconstruction stage and look at it and say, well, this might fit in the new me. I'm here to share what you know it won't. It didn't work in the old you. It didn't work in the old you, therefore it definitely has no place in the new you. Doesn't mean you have to be resentful, disgruntled about. No, you just have to accept the fact that it does not equate with where I am or where I'm going or where I want to be spiritually. The time that is spent in your life was the time that is spent in your life. Once it's let go out of your life is where it should be, right? Anything that goes in that place where that left has to be of newness. So we need to continuously adding new things to us, right? We starting with the things that we already figured out in the last step. In part 3, we implemented some stuff in our lives. Each individual's implementation may vary, right? But I'm sharing with you whatever it is that you implemented in your life. Now it's time to put that implementation into kineticness, into energy and motion, right? Start to get the goodness or the feeling out of that you thought or that you believe it would bring to your life. This is the reason you implemented it into your life. So you need to start living in that. You need to start getting the full benefits of that and enjoying it. You can't tinker with the old and wonder why the new is not feeling as fulfilling as it is, because you're tainting it with some stuff that's old. That's like putting bad gas in your vehicle. I'm going to talk in layman's terms. That's like putting bad gas in your vehicle and wonder why your car is moving sluggish. Wonder why it just ain't picking up speed. It ain't accelerating right. And that's because you got a batch of bad gas. Now, unknowingly, it's like, okay, now I got to go get my tank flushed. I got to go get it cleaned out. But if you knowingly go to a station that you know is serving bad gas and you put it in your car, you have to take accountability for the fact that you self-destroyed your own vehicle by adding something that you knew was already not good for you spiritually or into your car, right? In today's modern time, right, one of the things that seems to be abroad is that people are more enact to try new stuff. I'm talking about the millenniums, right? Sometimes people of my age will look back and say, oh, listen, there's nothing new under the sun. And I agree with that. There's nothing new under the sun. But there's some stuff that's under the sun that I haven't even seen yet or known yet. So when I see it, I must not speak out against it just because I don't know it. Right? I look at the development of it and how it's doing in their lives, and if they find enjoyness or true happiness, and it seems like, hey, whatever that is, it fits well with you. So in the applying stage, that's all we're doing. We're just applying our pieces that fit well with us because we're coming into the part of completion. We're coming into the part of foundational completion. And what that means is that your life is not complete. What you aspire to and what you're going to obtain or do in your life is not just complete, but your foundation is complete. Developing self, this whole series is a base of solidifying your foundation. Because at the end of the day, in the beginning of the day, it starts with you and it ends with you. So in knowing that, we must make sure that our foundation is solid. So what happens through the course of the day, at the end of the day, we'll still be able to stand. We'll still be able to live with ourselves. This is the most important part, is being able to live with ourselves. Like me in my day and in my time, I sleep comfortably. I hear a lot of folks share about how they tend to sleep okay at night, right? And they usually say it off of the piggyback of something that someone else may have shared about their character or their behavior. And folks will turn around and say, well, I sleep good at night. Don't none of that stuff bother me. Right? Me personally, I beg to differ because I believe the truth needs no defense. And hopefully the individuals who's been applying these steps, if you've been following this process in this series of developing self, and you've really been trying to apply these steps into your life, right? Your sleep and your night sleep should be coming better. They should be getting more and more comfortable, right? So what I'm saying to you is that in this phase, we must continue to apply. Just apply whatever it is. Whatever it is that you think will bring much more gloryfulness to your life. Whatever it is that you believe that will come into your life, right? You will try it and get comfortable with adding stuff to your life, right? So until the next time in our next episode, because we're coming to the end of our segment, like I said, these particular steps are not steps in fullness. These are just the beginning foundational steps in how we develop ourselves. The rest of your development will begin to take place as you live, as you grow. As you become more and more confident, you will add more and you'll be able to obtain and hold more stuff in your life because you have a solid foundation. So until the next time we get a chance to see each other and we get a chance to share with each other during these segments, right? I want you to just enjoy this applying the newness to your life. I can't wait. I look forward to seeing the newness that you bring to life, into your life, into the newness that you bring into life, man. It's a wonderful thing. So until next time, this is Brother Jamal, man, and this is Inspiration Through Information. And like always, I want each and every one of y'all to have a blessed evening. Good night.